As a psychiatrist, I've spent decades exploring the intricate landscape of the human mind. I've seen its incredible resilience, but I've also witnessed its profound vulnerability. Today, I want to talk about a topic that has become increasingly common in my practice and in our society: marijuana. We often hear it discussed in terms of legality or its potential benefits. But there's another side to this story that is often overlooked in public conversation. It is the story of how this plant can impact our most vital organ, the brain. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about providing clear, evidence-based information so you can make informed choices about your health. The conversation around cannabis has changed dramatically. What was once spoken about in hushed tones is now openly sold in many places and marketed as a wellness product. Yet in my clinic, I'm seeing a growing number of individuals, particularly young people, whose lives have been negatively affected by its use. They come to me struggling with issues they never connected to their cannabis habit, from persistent anxiety to a troubling sense of mental fog that just won't lift. My goal here is not to pass judgment, it is simply to share what the science is telling us and what I've observed firsthand. It is easy to understand why so many people believe marijuana is harmless. After all, it is a plant. We hear stories of it helping people with chronic pain, the side effects of chemotherapy. These medicinal uses are valid and important areas of scientific research. One of the biggest changes in recent years is the sheer strength of the marijuana available today. The THC concentration in cannabis has skyrocketed. Back in the 1990s, the average THC content was around 4%. Today it's common to find products with 20%, 30% or even higher concentrations in oils and edibles. Think of it like this: a beer is not the same as a shot of straight vodka. This illusion of safety is a significant public health concern. When something is legal and widely available, we naturally assume it has been thoroughly vetted. But the rapid pace of legalization has outstripped our scientific understanding of the long-term consequences. We are essentially conducting a massive, uncontrolled experiment, and the early data is beginning to reveal some worrying trends. In my practice, I see the human cost of this experiment every day. Individuals who started using cannabis casually, believing it was benign, only to find themselves trapped in a cycle of dependency and worsening mental health. The narrative that it's just a plant ignores the complex pharmacology at play. Many powerful medicines and poisons also come from plants. The poppy gives us opium, and the foxglove plant gives us digitalis, a potent heart medication. The natural origin of a substance tells us nothing about its safety or its impact on our biology. So what exactly happens inside your head when you use marijuana? To understand this, we first need to know a little about the brain's own cannabis-like system called the endocannabinoid system. This system is crucial for regulating all sorts of things: mood, appetite, memory, sleep. It works like a delicate set of dimmer switches, fine-tuning communication between brain cells to keep everything in balance. The THC in marijuana hijacks this system. It floods the brain, flipping all those switches on with a force and duration far more intense than our natural endocannabinoids. This overwhelming stimulation is what causes the high, but it also disrupts the brain's normal functioning. Over time, with regular use, the brain tries to adapt to this constant onslaught. It begins to downregulate its own endocannabinoid system. It reduces the number of receptors available for THC to bind to, essentially trying to turn down the volume. This is why people develop a tolerance and need more and more marijuana to achieve the same effect. But this adaptation comes at a cost. The brain becomes less sensitive not only to THC, but also to its own natural balancing endocannabinoids. This is where the concept of accelerated brain aging comes in. Recent neuroimaging studies are providing startling visual evidence of this process. When researchers compare long-term heavy users with non-users, they often see differences resembling premature aging. They observe a reduction in grey matter volume in certain areas, particularly those involved in memory and decision-making. Think of your brain's communication network like a system of well-maintained roads. In a healthy brain, traffic flows smoothly. When THC floods the brain, it's like all the signals get stuck on green. At first it's a rush, but soon it leads to chaos, collisions, and gridlock. With chronic use, the brain starts shutting down intersections, the receptors, to try to control the chaos. The result is a less efficient, more sluggish road network. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Alex. He came to my clinic at age 19, brought in by his worried parents. He had always been bright, he was sociable, he had a passion for graphic design, he had a close group of friends. Around age 16, he started experimenting with marijuana. At first, it was just on weekends. He told me it helped him relax and feel more creative. He saw it as harmless fun, something everyone was doing. His grades remained steady for a while. He felt he had it all under control. The illusion of control is a powerful force. Over the next 2 years, his use escalated. What started as a weekend habit became a daily necessity. He began smoking high-potency cannabis throughout the day. He believed it helped him manage growing social anxiety. But it was a vicious cycle. The more he smoked to numb his anxiety, the more anxious he felt when he wasn't high. His world began to shrink. He stopped hanging out with his old friends and he fell in with a new crowd. His passion for graphic design faded. It was replaced by an apathy that alarmed his parents. He was there, but he wasn't. By the time I met Alex, he was a shadow of his former self. He was failing his college courses. He struggled to hold a conversation. He complained of a constant brain fog. He couldn't remember simple things. His thoughts felt scattered and slow. Most concerningly, he had started experiencing paranoid thoughts. This wasn't the creative, relaxed state he had been chasing. This was a state of confusion and fear. Working with Alex involved a slow and patient process of detoxification and therapy. His journey was difficult, marked by relapses and moments of despair. But gradually, as the fog began to lift, we saw glimpses of the old Alex return. His story is a stark reminder that while marijuana may feel like a solution in the short term for a vulnerable young brain, it can become the very source of the problems it was meant to solve. One of the most common reasons people tell me they use marijuana is to self-medicate for anxiety or a low mood. And honestly, it's understandable. The initial effect of THC can feel calming, creating a temporary sense of detachment from one's worries. But this relief is often a deceptive short-term loan from your future well-being. Regular cannabis use, especially high-potency strains, is increasingly linked to worsening anxiety disorders. The very thing people use to escape anxiety can, in a cruel twist, amplify it. This happens because of changes in the brain's endocannabinoid system. As the brain desensitizes to THC, it loses the ability to regulate anxiety naturally. When the high wears off, a rebound effect can make anxiety surge higher than before. That surge creates a compelling urge to use again, locking someone into a cycle of dependency. They end up using not to feel good, but just to feel normal. This trap is incredibly difficult to escape, and the link with depression is just as concerning. Research shows a strong correlation between heavy cannabis use and major depressive disorder. One theory, chronic THC disrupts the brain's dopamine system responsible for pleasure, motivation, and reward. Over time, this can lead to anhedonia, inability to feel pleasure. Life becomes flat and colorless, a hallmark of severe depression. In my practice, I see patients convinced they have treatment-resistant depression. They've tried multiple antidepressants with little success while continuing daily cannabis use. They rarely connect the two. When we reduce or stop cannabis, mood often lifts and antidepressants start working. Marijuana can act like a constant brake on emotional recovery. All of this highlights a critical message. You cannot effectively treat a mental health condition while using a substance that disrupts the brain systems you're trying to heal. Beyond mood, one of the most well-documented effects of marijuana is its impact on our cognitive functions, especially memory. We've all heard the stereotype of the forgetful stoner, and unfortunately there is a great deal of scientific truth to it. THC directly interferes with the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped region deep in your brain that acts as its memory formation hub. It's responsible for converting our short-term experiences into long-term memories that we can recall later. When THC is present, this process is significantly impaired. This is why people who are high often have trouble remembering what happened just a few moments ago. The brain is simply not encoding the information properly. For an occasional user, this effect is temporary. Memory function generally returns to normal once the THC has cleared the system. However, for regular heavy users, the consequences can be more lasting. The constant disruption to the hippocampus can lead to persistent difficulties with learning and memory, even when the person is not actively high. It's like trying to save a file on a computer that keeps getting unplugged. I see this manifest in my patients in very practical ways. Students find they can't retain what they're studying, no matter how many times they read the material. Professionals complain of being unable to follow complex conversations in meetings or forgetting important tasks and appointments. It's a pervasive mental fog that affects their performance at school, at work, in their personal relationships. They describe a frustrating feeling of their own mind working against them. This cognitive decline can be a major source of distress and a significant blow to one's self-esteem. The crucial question is whether this damage is permanent. The evidence here is mixed and seems to depend on several factors, including the age at which use began, the duration of the habit, and the intensity of the habit. The good news is that for many adults who quit, cognitive function appears to improve significantly over weeks and months as the brain's chemistry begins to rebalance. If there is one single message I want you to take away from this, it is this. The adolescent brain and marijuana are a uniquely dangerous combination. The brain undergoes its most dramatic and crucial development between the ages of about 12 and 25. During this period, it is not just growing, it is undergoing a massive rewiring process. It's pruning away unused connections and strengthening important pathways, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for judgment, impulse control, and long-term planning. This is the part of the brain that makes us rational adults. Introducing high-potency THC into this delicate construction site is like letting a bull loose in a china shop. Because the endocannabinoid system plays a key role in guiding this brain development, flooding it with external cannabinoids can disrupt the entire architectural plan. It can interfere with the pruning process, leaving the brain with an inefficient and immature network of connections. This can have lifelong consequences for executive functions. It can result in enduring problems with attention, motivation, the ability to weigh risks and rewards. Essentially, it can arrest the development of psychological maturity. This is why the age of first use is such a powerful predictor of future problems. A person who starts using marijuana heavily at age 15 is at a much higher risk of developing dependency, cognitive impairment, serious mental health issues compared to someone who first tries it at age 30. Research has shown a disturbingly strong link between adolescent cannabis use and the later development of psychosis, including schizophrenia. The reality I see in my clinic confirms this science. The most severe and difficult cases of cannabis-related harm are almost always in individuals who started young. Protecting the adolescent brain from high-potency cannabis is one of the most important public health imperatives of our time. We have journeyed through the complex relationship between marijuana, the brain, and our mental health. The perception of this plant as universally harmless is a dangerous illusion being challenged by a growing body of scientific evidence and the real-life stories of people like Alex. The high-potency cannabis available today is a powerful substance that fundamentally alters our brain chemistry, and its effects are far from benign, especially when use begins during the critical window of adolescent development. This is a conversation about health, not hype. We've explored how chronic use can hijack the brain's natural balancing systems, leading to a state that mimics accelerated aging. We've seen how the brain's very structure can change with reductions in gray matter in key areas responsible for memory, responsible for decision-making. This physical process has real-world consequences. The temporary relief from anxiety can morph into a chronic anxiety disorder. The pursuit of a mood boost can pave the way for a profound and persistent depression. The cost to our cognitive clarity and our memory can be immense. The message is not that cannabis is an absolute evil, but that it carries significant risks that demand our respect and attention. The risk is greatest for young people whose developing brains are uniquely vulnerable to its disruptive effects. But even for adults, mindful and informed use is essential. Understanding the interplay of potency, frequency, and personal vulnerability is key to navigating this new landscape safely. We must weigh the fleeting pleasure of the high against the potential long-term cost to our cognitive health and our emotional health. Ultimately, your brain is your most precious asset. It is the source of your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, and your ambitions. Protecting its health is the single most important investment you can make in your future well-being. I urge you to think critically, to look beyond the marketing and the myths, and to prioritize the long-term health of your mind. By making informed choices today, you can ensure that your brain remains a vibrant, resilient, and capable partner for all the years to come. Your future self will thank you for it.